My name is Kwamina Amo. You can call me Mr. Smooth, and I'm doing this video for my YouTube followers. So if you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, this is about the time you do so. Kwamina, Mr. Smooth, subscribe and hit the like button as well. Now, this video I'm doing for those who have issues with masturbations and are unable to deal with it. I did the show on TV, on GMTV, but I couldn't get the video to put out here, so I decided to do this from my private home and also have people that I promised to put this video out there get the content of what I spoke about on TV the last time. Now, let me start with female masturbation. Most people think that when you are a female and you're masturbating is okay, but it's important to understand that there are reflexology points in the vagina, and if you just masturbate one area of it, you create an imbalance in your endocrine system, and this imbalance can cause a lot of problems for you, the woman. For instance, most people when they are masturbating, or most women when they are masturbating, will concentrate on the clitoris. But you should also remember that masturbating is never and can never be compared to heart-to-heart contact, face-to-face contact with a man or with a partner. It's very important that you take note of that. So women who masturbate excessively would just stimulate just a certain part of the vagina and then have problems with their kidneys. They become weak. They have urinary tract infections. Their blood pressure goes up. They also have problems with urinary or water retention, and it also affects them with their menses. They have irregular menstruations and many other such problems. But unfortunately, it's difficult for women to masturbate in a balanced way. For men, you can rub the entire penis and say you are masturbating, because then you are probably activating all the reflexology points. You'll probably be masturbating all the reflexology points on the penis that can sometimes have a balance in your endocrine system. But with women, various parts are hidden. The clitoris is out there. The G-spot is hidden somewhere on the urethral sponge. So it becomes a little difficult having the entire vaginal canal stimulated while you masturbate. So it's a little disturbing when you create that imbalance in your endocrine system, and eventually goes a long way to affect you. And you're going to have problems, like I said, with your kidney and with your bladder. And most lesbians who masturbate excessively tend to have these problems with related to weight and also developing fluid retentions. It is because they are stimulating just the kidneys and the urinary bladder, and this actually, like I said, is not very healthy. And then such people will also have or experience vaginal discharges and vaginal dryness and some vaginal infections. And this, like I said, would also result in, even when they happen to get pregnant, leading to some miscarriages and early birth. Now, the problem is with addiction, and some people don't even know that they are addicted to masturbating. But addiction, if an activity that you engage in that becomes compulsive and negatively affects the person, such as phone addiction, alcohol addiction, drug addiction, porn addiction, sex addiction, masturbation addiction, gambling addiction, which is also very, very serious. All these things that you do compulsively and has negative effects on you are a form of an addiction that everyone who is having such problems need to seek help and get someone to help you deal with this particular problem. But there's a need to be able to control this habit of masturbation, because actually when you masturbate as a man, you lose substance, you lose energy when you ejaculate. And from this point of what I'm talking about, if you have seen the videos I have there on over, from the viewpoint of excessive ejaculation, it is just very, very harmful. From the viewpoint of excessive ejaculation, it's very harmful. It is disastrous, and it weakens your pelvic floor, and your sex organs, especially if you're a man, young boy, and you are masturbating. The problem with the young people is the fluids in the body, your body fluids, especially your sperm, is needed to build your nervous system, especially when your nervous system is not completely developed. And if you overly ejaculate, all you're doing is you're draining your essence, you're draining what the body needs to make you grow bigger, grow taller, grow smarter, and eventually affects your growth. And even most people who masturbate when they are very young end up not having their sex organs developing to the size that would have normally been normal for them. Unfortunately, masturbation is so easy to do and very difficult to stop. People often do not realize the sort of bad effect and the way they deplete their energy and the body's essence when they overly or senselessly ejaculate. So masturbation is one of the things that, yes, people will talk about the moral aspect of it, but in fact, I would want to look at the moral aspect of it. I would want to look at the scientific facts or the science part of it, and how bad it is and how harmful it is to the body. Some even masturbate and have their sexual organs swollen and deformed and have abrasions on their penises and stuff. So it is not something that you should worry your head about. But at this point, I would want to show you a video so you can watch um, the video describe the bad effects of masturbations on your health. After having looked at how masturbation, the side effects of masturbations, I think it would be very good if you get to know how your body produces sperm. And once you get to know how your body produces sperm, I'm sure you value the sperm that you are throwing out. So I'm going to show you a video I picked from YouTube that talks exactly how the body produces the sperm, and you get to know all the details about where the sperm is coming from, how it is made, and how it is thrown out. So at least it gives you the idea that your sperm is very valuable and you need to value it.
In this video, we will talk about the male reproductive system, and let us first begin by learning some major male reproductive organs, anatomy, and structures. To do so, let us cut a sagittal plane of this gentleman here and look at what reproductive organs and structures we can find. But before that, let us first start with the non-reproductive organs, just to see where we are in respect to the male body I drew on the left. So this here would be the anus, where food from the gastrointestinal tract come down to, bringing poo, essentially. Behind this, we would find the bottom part of the spine, not the spinal cord. That was a mistake. Ventral to the anus tract, we can find the urinary bladder here, which most of us will know will connect all the way to the penis, forming the hole. The urinary bladder stores urine, which travels via the ureter from the kidneys. So from the kidneys, urine will come to the urinary bladder via the ureter and then out through the penis if it has to during excretion. So here, of course, we have the penis. The penis is made of muscle, and that's why if people have an erection, these muscles tighten up and contract, increase blood flow, causing the penis to be erected. Around the most ventral part of our body here, we have pubic symphysis, which is basically cartilage connecting our hip bones together in the front, if that makes any sense. So those are sort of the non-male reproductive structures, except the penis, of course. The most important reproductive structure of the male, I would say, is the testes, which actually produces our sperm. Surrounding and protecting the testes, we have the scrotum, our skin that acts as a barrier. So sperm is produced by the testes. Sperm can then travel out from the testes and can be stored in the epididymis. During ejaculation, sperm will then travel out from the epididymis through the long ductus deferens here. The ductus deferens will continue on and will end basically at the ampulla of the ductus deferens and will connect with what's called the seminal glands. Now the seminal glands produces the semen, the fluid that actually mixes with the sperm. So now sperm and semen are mixed up and will travel through the prostate gland and out through the penis. So the sperm pathway, remember, starts from the testes, it comes up through the ductus deferens, mixes with semen produced by the seminal glands, and then it will move out through the prostate gland, through the urethra of the penis, and out through the external urethral orifice. Now, as you can see, urine and semen both travel through the urethra and out of the same hole of the penis. But both cannot happen simultaneously, unless, of course, there's some biological problem. So, for example, when you pee, the ejaculatory duct will close, and vice versa. When you ejaculate, your urinary bladder sphincter will close. Lastly, the last structure I'd like to talk about is what's called the bulbourethral gland, which I actually won't talk about. I'll just mention it, and we'll soon find out its function later on. So sperm is the reproductive cell, the gametes of male, and they are produced by the testes. So let's learn a bit more about the testes. Here is the scrotal cavity, and surrounding it there is the scrotum that protects the testes, the inside. Within the testes we have many tubules organized brilliantly here. These tubules are called the seminiferous tubules, and it's within these seminiferous tubules where sperm is synthesized. Here we have a lobule of seminiferous tubules, and between each of these organized tubules we have the septa, which separates them. The seminiferous tubules connect to the rete testes and then to the epididymis. The epididymis consists of a head region, body region, and a tail region down here. The epididymis, remember, stores the sperm produced by the seminiferous tubules. Now the tail of the epididymis will connect to the ductus deferens, or properly known as the ductus vas deferens. There is of course blood supplying the testes. So from all this we can see that sperm is synthesized here in the seminiferous tubules, and then they go here to the epididymis where it gets stored. Then if ejaculation happens, or will happen, the sperm will travel through the ductus deferens and through the urethra of the penis and out. So we learned a bit about the testes. The sperm is synthesized in the seminiferous tubules. So let's cut a cross section of this tubule and have a look at its structure and what it looks like inside this seminiferous tubule. Surrounding the seminiferous tubules, we have the basement membrane and fibroblasts. Around the seminiferous tubules, we have the interstitial space, where interstitial cells reside in. These interstitial cells are also known as Leydig cells. And these cells are the cells that produce the male hormones, such as testosterone. We also have capillaries here that supply blood to the seminiferous tubules. Within the seminiferous tubules, we have special cells here. By the way, here is the lumen of the seminiferous tubules, like a gap, a hole. Anyway, back to these cells. These cells are known as nurse cells, but they're also called Sertoli cells. So these nurse cells, these Sertoli cells, actually help in sperm cell synthesis, basically. Sperm synthesis begins from cells called sperm stem cells on the outermost layer of the seminiferous tubules here. And these sperm stem cells will then proceed towards the lumen of the seminiferous tubules, where they will essentially become sperm with the tail as we all know it. The sperm stem cells proceed towards the lumen of the seminiferous tubules by dividing via mitosis and then via meiosis and then meiosis again. So sperm will then end up at the lumen of the seminiferous tubules. The sperm is actually properly referred to as a spermatozoa. This is just to describe what stage of sperm synthesis it's at. The spermatozoa in the seminiferous tubule is actually still immature. It can't wiggle its tail properly, basically. So essentially what happens is these outermost sperm stem cells become spermatozoa as it proceeds to the lumen of the seminiferous tubule. From the lumen of the seminiferous tubule, these immature spermatozoa will then travel towards the epididymis, where it will mature and get stored, ready for release during ejaculation. So let's take a section of the seminiferous tubule here, including the lumen, to have a general picture of sperm synthesis. Remember, we are only going to look at a general explanation. It will not go into that much detail. So here we have the lumen of the seminiferous tubule, and here we have the fibroblast and the basement membrane. The interstitial cells, the Leydig cells that produce testosterone and androgen. And then we have blood vessels that supply the testes with blood. And here, most importantly, the outermost layer of the seminiferous tubule, we have sperm stem cells. These cells are known as spermatogonia, and they begin sperm synthesis, essentially. The first part of sperm synthesis is called spermatogenesis. Spermatogenesis is basically when you have the spermatogonia divide to replicate itself, a process known as mitosis. So the spermatogonia via mitosis will form daughter cells. These daughter cells are known as the primary spermatocyte. Now these primary spermatocytes are pretty important because they are what begin meiosis, which is a special form of cell division to produce male gametes, in this case, sperm. So two meioses actually occur. First of all, the primary spermatocyte will produce secondary spermatocytes via meiosis. So here we have one primary spermatocyte making two secondary spermatocytes. Then a second meiosis occurs when these secondary spermatocytes will form spermatids. In this example I'm drawing, we have one secondary spermatocyte forming two spermatids, respectively. So if you got confused there, we had two meiosis occurring. One from the primary spermatocyte to the secondary spermatocyte, and then the second meiosis from the secondary spermatocyte to the spermatid. Now, once the spermatids are formed, this actually completes the spermatogenesis process. But after spermatogenesis, you have another process called spermiogenesis that essentially allows spermatids to develop and become immature spermatozoa in the lumen. The immature spermatozoa, which are in the lumen, can then travel to the epididymis for maturation and storage, ready for release. I forgot to mention another type of cell known as nurse cells, which help in sperm synthesis. It particularly supports spermatogenesis. These nurse cells are also known as Sertoli cells. So I hope sperm synthesis made some sense. If it didn't, I will hopefully make a video on sperm synthesis. So now that we know some anatomy and physiology of sperm synthesis, let's look at all this in a bigger picture. So looking at the male reproductive organs. So here is the penis, and the urethra here will join to the urinary bladder. The urinary bladder up here stores urine, and the ureter will connect the urinary bladder to the kidneys. So the ureter will actually bring urine to the urinary bladder for storage. The tube that connects the urinary bladder to the outside of the body is known as the urethra. Here. Now let's look at the main male reproductive structures. So here we have the testes. Let's take a closer look at the testes. Here again we have the seminiferous tubules of the testes. And they actually produce spermatozoa, remember? The immature spermatozoa. Spermatozoa, again, is just sperm, the reproductive cell of the male, the gamete. The immature spermatozoa will then move towards the epididymis here, which will store and protect the spermatozoa. It also supports its maturation, and it is also a recycling center for damaged spermatozoa. So spermatozoa, the sperm, is stored here in the epididymis, and when ejaculation occurs, the spermatozoa, which is now mature, will move along the ductus deferens, ductus vas deferens. The vas deferens begins at the tail of the epididymis. It also can contract to support spermatozoa movement and transport to the penis, to the urethra. It also can support spermatozoa for a short duration, so it can be used for storage for spermatozoa for a short duration. And so when ejaculation happens, the mature spermatozoa, they will move along the ductus vas deferens and will connect to the urethra tube. Now let's look at the accessory glands of the male reproductive system. The sperm that comes from the epididymis or vas deferens during ejaculation will join with another tube forming the ejaculatory duct. The sperm will mix with a fluid being secreted by the structure here called the seminal glands. The seminal glands will secrete what's called the seminal fluid that will make up 60% of the semen volume. It will contain things to support sperm. It contains fructose for energy, prostaglandins to support sperm movement, as well as fibrinogen. So what is the semen? Well, semen is essentially fluid that contains things to support sperm traveling during ejaculation. So the sperm, remember, is the reproductive cell, and the semen is the fluid that the sperm travels in during ejaculation. The other accessory organ is the prostate gland, where the semen sperm will pass through as well. The prostate gland is a muscular round organ that produces prostate fluid that actually make up 30% of the semen volume. So the prostate gland will also secrete fluid containing things making up semen. The final accessory organ is the bulbourethral gland that secrete a thick alkaline mucus. This thick alkaline mucus actually will help neutralize any urinary acids in the urethra. And this is in order that the semen, when it travels during ejaculation, can travel through the urethra in a non-acidic environment. So during ejaculation, sperm will move here through the epididymis, vas deferens, out through the urethra and shoot out like so. And this is semen. The typical ejaculation, a typical ejaculation, releases about 2 to 5 milliliters of semen. Semen, remember, will contain seminal fluid, prostate fluid, as well as some bulbourethral fluid, as well as enzymes to support the sperm. And of course, it will contain sperm. So semen contains sperm, the male reproductive cell. Each ejaculation actually releases about 20 to 100 million sperm cells, which is a lot. And so during sexual intercourse without the use of a condom, one of these sperm cells will hopefully fuse with the female reproductive cell along the fallopian tubules. But that's for another story. So I hope you understand a bit more about the male reproductive system.
In seeing how the sperm is produced, it's important to understand that yes, the body produces the sperm, but it is not something that you should joke with. It's not something that you should toy around with. It's not something that you should play with. So here, I have said this before, that when you are 20 years, you can have ejaculations every 4 days. After every 4 days, your body will rebuild the sperm. If you are 30 years old, you can have 8 days. After every 8 days, you can have 1 ejaculation. When you are 40 years, you can have every 16 days, you can have 1. If you are 50 years, every 21 days, you can have 1. If you are 60 years, 30 days plus. It takes a longer time for the body to produce the sperm as you age. And I don't believe that there's anything that can make your body produce the sperm fast, as some people think. As you age, the rate at which the body produces the sperm reduces. And don't think that you are Superman and you can have your body produce the sperm just as you ejaculate. And the more you ejaculate, the more you drain your kidney energy. When you ejaculate and you become excessively tired, when you ejaculate and you become overly tired and all you have to do is sleep, it simply means you have depleted your kidney's energy. When you go another round, you deplete your brain's energy. You can get a stroke. When you go another round, you can deplete your heart's energy. You can get a cardio arrest. That is why some people die masturbating, some people die overly ejaculating during sex. So it's important that we regulate, and that the sperm is our reserve energy. So the more you keep it, the better it is for you. So I'm going to show you another video on how to control yourself, especially when you masturbate. If you follow this video that I'm showing to you, if you follow the lessons in there, finding that particular trigger that makes you masturbate will help you deal with your masturbation habits.
Is masturbation bad or good for health? So you first tell me, are drugs good or bad for health? If drugs are taken in limit, it is called medicine. But if anyone takes it without limit, it can take his life. From a scientific research, it has been known that a strong drug like heroin causes the same kind of chemical changes as masturbation does. So for this reason, some scientists compare it with heroin addiction. So if anyone becomes addicted to this addiction, he needs a strong willpower to come out from this, because the reward of this addiction is very strong. Our body always exuded a hormone named testosterone, which is responsible for creating sexual urges in our body, and it is also responsible for muscle building. But if you are continuously outflowing this hormone from your body, your muscle building may get affected. So according to me, this is the most harmful physical side effect of excessive masturbation. Now come to psychological side effect. For watching excessive porn videos or doing excessive masturbation, all time sex related things start to come in our mind. For this reason, after seeing anybody, any type of thoughts pops up into our mind, which I believe is the most embarrassing thing. And for this, later we regret, what's wrong with me? How could I think such crap things? So let me tell you, it is not necessary to regret for this. It is happening because all the day you are watching these kind of things and also you are thinking about this. Instead of that, if you start to think about some good things, you will start noticing that type of things around you. For example, a businessman always notices business possibility in everything. A poet always looks for poetic beauty. Similarly, what we think about all the day, we start to notice those things around us. Now, whether it is for physical side effect or psychological side effect, at a certain point in life, we all want to get rid of this addiction. Because no one likes to become a slave of his own mind. So how to get free from this slavery? Today I am going to share with you from Charles Duhigg's all-time best-selling book, The Power of Habit. Charles says there are 3 parts in any habit: trigger, routine and reward. Every habit has a trigger, after that we follow a certain routine, finally to get a reward. Now there are 5 types of triggers. Number 1, time. It may be day or night. Number 2, location. When you are alone in your bedroom. Number 3, emotion. When you are depressed or feeling bored. Number 4, person. After seeing Sunny Leone's photo. And number 5, last action. Lying in bed after having dinner. Among these 5 things, any one thing may act as a trigger for a habit. Next is routine. When a habit gets triggered, we automatically follow a routine. For example, when this habit gets triggered, you open your laptop or mobile and you play those videos, and the rest you know very well. Next is reward. When we start to follow a routine, chemical changes starts in our brain and dopamine exuded, which activates our brain's reward circuitry, and we start to feel a pleasurable feelings. And this feeling serves as a reward for the habit. So we can realize that we have no control over trigger and reward of a habit. We can't change these 2 things even if we want to, because these 2 things are automatic and natural. The thing which is in our control is routine. We can change our routine a little bit if we want to. According to Charles, we can never remove a strong habit. We can only replace it with another habit. And for this replacement, we should keep the trigger and reward part same and bring changes in the routine. It means we have to replace the negative habits routine with any positive habits routine. But it does not mean that the whole routine should be changed within a single day. No, change it gradually. Now let's see how we can change masturbation habit. At first, you have to identify your routine, because everyone's routine is different. I will try to explain it with just an example. Let us consider your habit is, after having dinner, you come to your bedroom, then you turn off the light and play those type of videos on your mobile lying on bed, and the rest of the routine you know very well. So how can you change this routine? Look, there has to be some reason to change something. So first you need a reason. You can find this reason by yourself, or if you want, I can also help you to find it out. Some modern researchers also suggest that 1 or 2 time masturbation in a week is healthy. So as I said, that we should not make a huge change in our routine. So what happens, in this app, after every 3 days, on the 4th day, it gives you a rest day. On this day, you can follow your old routine if you want to, but rest of the 3 days, when this habit gets triggered, follow your old routine as it is up to taking up the mobile into your hand, but then play this video instead of playing those type of videos. This is enough. I hope the rest of the work will be done by this video. After watching this video, your urges will get reduced, and after all, then you will have a strong reason. You just have to play this video instead of those type of videos by using some of your willpower. I have just given an example how you can change your routine. If you want, you can also find out a better method. Don't be a slave, be a master.
Now, after having seen this, let me just go over some basic steps or some basic things that you can do to control yourself from masturbating, especially if you are an addict to masturbation. First of all, you need to acknowledge that you are an addict. You need to acknowledge that you do this masturbation thing. And then you need to ask yourself, how is this masturbation thing affecting my life? Then you ask yourself, what part am I playing in this addiction? When I take that part off, would I be part of the problem? Would I be part of the solution? How am I going to deal with it, and why and how? These things you need to do sober reflection of yourself and assess yourself and look at how you look at the first few things that you need. But the important point here is, do you have the desire to stop? Are you willing to stop? Do you have that desire to end this feeling? Do you have that compelling enough reason to stop after having seen the side effects of overly masturbating? Take that responsibility because you know it is harming you. Yes, we all make mistakes. Even as you resolve to stop, you may make a couple of mistakes. There were times when you will tell yourself you will not do it, and then you find yourself doing it. Don't fight yourself. Forgive yourself, and then still move on. Make that effort. Take that time. Fight yourself and get to know that you really want to stop. You are working at it, and with time, you would also be able to stop. And like you saw in the video, you need to find those patterns that make you masturbate. And then, as much as possible, eliminate all those things that make you masturbate. So, if you are someone who masturbates to porn, make sure you delete all your porn. Make sure you block yourself from all the porn sites. Make sure if it is the women that you see that attract you, that would make you feel like doing it, make sure you control your eyes. When you see it and you think it will attract you, just find a way to move away from it. And then also, what do you think when you're doing it? How do you feel when you're finished masturbating? Do you believe that you are an addict? Do you believe that you cannot deal with these things? You need to accept that you can handle it. You are a human being. You have control over yourself. You have your own self to deal with. And then you should find that real reason to deal with it. Even sometimes you need to sit and ask yourself, what do you benefit? Besides that quick pleasure that you get, that eventually you start feeling all the guilt again. What do you benefit from it? Is it harming you more than you're benefiting? These are some of the things you should weigh, some of the things you should identify as the triggers, and then gradually reduce the frequency. You may not stop in a day, but as you constantly reduce the frequency, as you avoid the pornographic stuff, as you start exercising regularly, the endorphin chemicals just go up, and then sort of help you release the addiction. So avoid staying alone. If when you stay alone you would masturbate, find other ways to make yourself happy, find other ways to release the stress, find good things to do, find good things to love, adapt strategies to stop focusing on your bad habits and now start focusing on the good ones. Develop that willpower. You need to develop that willpower. You need to develop that self-control. You need to change yourself physically, even if it means changing your social environment. Do so. Changing your friends, do so. And then you also need to write down the harmful effects of this masturbation on your life. Once you are able to document it and regularly you look at it, and then each time your body tells you, each time the mind clicks that you should masturbate, just pick that list you made of the negative effects of masturbation on you. Look at it and ask whether you need to do this. Ask yourself, what can you do? Why can't you stop it? Think about how this thing is affecting your health physically, and then make your own list of ways that you think you can fix this problem physically and mentally. Ask yourself, am I doing everything in my will? Am I doing everything to remain healthy? Am I doing everything to live long? Am I proud of the way I'm doing? Am I confident enough in myself becoming a masturbation addict? Write down how you intend to quit. And then when you start quitting, when you start chalking some success in your addiction habits, compliment yourself. I mean, praise yourself for stopping that one or two habits. That time that you were supposed to masturbate and you didn't do it. Sort of compliment yourself. Be happy about it, and then decide to also advise others to stop this addiction. I mean, once you become an advocate of people who are in there trying to stop people from masturbating, as you continue to talk about it and as you continue to find methods to help others stop, you yourself will also find yourself stopping. And it is important that you set a date that you're going to quit. And even if you're unable to fix that date, if you're unable to meet that date, you just set that date. Work towards yourself. Work towards work towards trying to stop. And then don't rationalize it that after all, many people are doing it, and after all, don't rationalize it. Make it look bad to you. Once you see it as bad, you will find ways to deal with it. And like I said, celebrate your accomplishments. Once you succeed, celebrate it. You must convince yourself that you can do it. And then assess the consequences carefully, and then take gradual steps, like I said. Gain knowledge about the pluses and minuses of what you are addicted to, and then look at the minuses critically, look at the pluses critically, and find ways to deal with yourself, ways to stop it. And I assure you that once you are able to do it, instead of making excuses, you rather find pragmatic ways to deal with it. Now, there are other ways to use your sexual energy. So, not to waste your sexual energy, I'm going to show you a video on how to transmute your sexual energy, and a video on how important it is to transmute your sexual energy into more useful things. So, that's a video for you on sexual transmutation.
Sex transmutation is the saving of sex energy for other uses besides sex. Semen is the vital energy, which supports your life. Each sperm is capable of producing a human being if given the chance to fertilize. Semen is found in a subtle state in all the cells of the body. The more the wastage, the more the body weakens. The preservation of semen aids in all success in the physical, mental, intellectual and spiritual planes. How is semen formed? According to science, from the digested food chyle is formed. Out of chyle comes blood, out of blood comes flesh, out of flesh comes fat, out of fat comes bone, out of bone comes marrow, out of marrow comes semen. Semen is the last variant that is formed out of food. It takes approximately 30 days and 4 hours to complete this cycle. Scientists believe that an intake of 32 kilograms of food produces 800 grams of blood, which in turn forms only 20 grams of semen. This will be discharged in one ejaculation. Now you can see how precious the semen is. Modern medicine says it is a medical and physiological fact that the best blood in the body goes to form the elements of reproduction, in both the sexes. In a pure and orderly life, this matter is reabsorbed. It goes back into circulation ready to form the finest brain, nerve and muscular tissues. This vital fluid of man carried back and diffused through his system makes him manly, strong, brave and heroic. If wasted, it leaves him effeminate, weak and physically debilitated. From the book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, the emotion of sex has 3 uses. The perpetuation of mankind. As a healing agent. Transforming mediocrity into genius by transmutation. In his book, Way of the Superior Man, David Deida says excess ejaculation will diminish your courage to take risks, professionally and spiritually. You will settle for doing enough to get by, to be comfortable. But you will find that you would rather watch TV than write your novel, meditate or make that important phone call. You will have enough motivation to live a decent life, but ejaculation drain you of the cutting through energy that is necessary to pierce your own wall of lethargy and slice through the obstructions that arise in the world. Your gift will remain ungiven. It is common understanding that overindulgence in drinks and drugs lead to destruction, but it is uncommon for people to understand that overindulgence in sex can lead to the same thing. Once there was a gardener. He spent all his time, energy and wealth in developing a garden. In the garden flowers were grown. He made a perfume with the flower extract. And what he does next? He poured the perfume into a sewer. Don't you think the gardener is foolish? Most of us are like the gardener. The energy that is wasted during one ejaculation, tantamount to the energy that is spent in physical labor for 10 days, or the energy that is utilized in mental work for 3 days. Thus many of us are not less stupid than the gardener of the story. If you have a dam of water that keeps filling up, eventually it's going to get to the point that it overflows or breaks through and rushes out. The aim is not to suppress the energy but to sublimate it. Sublimation is not a matter of suppression but a positive transmutation process. It is the process of controlling the sex energy, conserving it, then diverting it into higher channels. Replace the cravings and urges with something productive. Newton did it with science, Mike Tyson did it with boxing, Steve Jobs did it with innovation, Michelangelo did it with art, Leo Tolstoy did it with writing. Force yourself to sit down and work. Over time this gets easier and the work you produce will be of incredible quality. Masturbation and watching internet porn drains vital energy from you. It's like fire, you can either use it for good or burn yourself with it. Consciously use your sex energy and focus it on your life plan, just as fire is changed into light and electricity. It is very possible that you go through withdrawal problems in cutting back your porn usage, just like a drug or other addiction. You need to be aware of this and know how to deal with it. Don't try to resist or block sexual thoughts, just observe them with indifference. As you were observing a burning mountain from afar.